Welcome, everyone. Next slide, Manny. Welcome, everyone, to today's True 2022 Grant Program Closeout informational webinar. We hope to walk you through the process of your True Grant Closeout. And we're going to be showing you the new platform, or what we call the True Grant Hub, which you'll see in a few minutes. And basically get quite specific about all the different steps to take to get this accomplished. Thank you for your time and attention to this today. A couple of housekeeping notes. Copies of this deck will be sent to the points of contact for all the True Grants, grantees. The chat box on this webinar has been disabled, but the Q&A box is the location where you can post your questions. We're going to address all questions at the end, and you can also save your questions if you don't want to post them during our presentation portion of this event. We're also recording, as you noted, and we're hoping to be able to post the recorded version of this webinar on the THECB website on the True 2022 grant page fairly shortly. But the deck will come to you before. In fact, we believe that closeout webinar video will be ready. On behalf of myself and Manny Garcia, part of the True team, we're very excited to share this with you, and we would like to open with some remarks from Dr. Tina Jackson, our Assistant Commissioner for Workforce Education here at THECB. Tina?
Hey, good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Sherry. I see the team here. First, want to thank the team. Thank you, Sherry, Dr. Reynes, and Manny Garcia, and Marie for all the great work that you've done. Wow, it has been a lot of work in a short amount of time. And so we just really appreciate the True team here at the coordinating board. And want to send another thanks to all my colleagues who are on the line today. Hello, and thank you so much for your ability to help us to reskill and upskill education across this great state. We're excited to share with you today all the great work that you guys are doing and what's to come. And then we're also just really excited that everything that you guys are doing with the Texas Reskilling and Upskilling Education Program aligns with the Building the Talent Strong Texas strategic goals and priorities. And you all know this is something that's been happening now a little bit over 2 years. We've been talking a lot about the importance of post-secondary credentials and high demand fields. So as we move forward, colleagues, we're going to continue to connect these dots because we understand the importance of reaching goals and making sure that our students are getting these degrees and attaining these valuable credentials that will help them to land jobs that will lead to prosperous futures for all of them. So as we move forward, colleagues, I want to once again thank you for your work. Know that we appreciate everything that you're doing at all the campuses across the state of Texas, and know that we are here to support you in any way that we can. Thanks so much for joining us today, and I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Reynes.
Terrific. Thanks, Dr. Jackson. So again, welcome. And we're going to be talking about the bones, the administrative bones of the True 2022 grant program, and not the wonderful work that you're doing, which is, of course, what we care about deeply. But the good news is that with this grant program closeout, you'll be sharing with us your accomplishments during this past grant year. Next slide, please, Manny. Just as a refresher, this is the closeout schedule for the True 2022 grant program. Grant period ended on August 31st. And your final project and expense reports will be due on October 9. October 9 is also the deadline for the submission of unexpended grant funds, should you have any return of funds to send back to us. We'll be going through each of these components, the project report, the expense report, and the return of funds in this presentation. Next slide, please. So we are going to be asking you to use something called the True Grant Hub to actually manage and administer your closeout process. The True Grant Hub is set up to provide report forms and a location for you to submit those forms. That includes final expense reports, final project reports and credential rosters, and the return of funds forms and instructions. Next slide, please. you received an email. If you are a point of contact for your grant, for your institution, you received an email yesterday concerning the True Grant Hub with this link. This is the gateway to the portal. And I'm going to ask Manny Garcia to take over and walk us through the True Grant Program Hub closeout functionalities right now.
Here we go. Welcome to the True Grant Program Hub. We are really excited to be sharing this hub with you. Our team has been heavily involved in developing a more practical process. We like the idea of having a space for you to be able to create proposals, submit interim reports, final reports, including the uploads of supporting documents. The hub will be used to collect final closeout forms, as Dr. Rennis just mentioned. These forms are actually due pretty soon, so right around the corner, right? The final expense report, the final project credential roster report, and your return of funds form, should there be any unspent funds to be returned from your grant. Another important function of this hub is to help disseminate information about upcoming True grants, including the latest requests for applications. The True 2023 grant competition will be announced via this hub very soon. Dr. Rennis will provide a brief update in a few minutes, but first, let's take a look at the final expense report. Here, you're asked to answer the fields. For instance, the name of your institution using the drop menu. Select yes or no if you are part of a consortium or if funds were used for student financial aid. Depending on your institution, the certifying official will be either the comptroller, financial aid director, director of sponsored projects, or the equivalent. Over to the top left, you'll find a link to the final expense form. The bottom tabs include instructions and a sample. It is crucial that this worksheet is not altered after being saved to your computer. You'll notice that this is a browser version of the worksheet. The required fields on this spreadsheet should have all of your information. And these fields are actually preset with calculations. So you'll enter amount here and it'll actually calculate your expenditure amounts over in column J. All of the fields must be answered in order for this Smartsheet form to go through. Once you complete your Excel sheet, you can drag it or search through your browse files and download the document using this box here. Following the submission of your form, the certifying official will receive an email notification requesting confirmation. Please open the notification to approve or decline the submission. A sample of this notification email is included at the end of the slide deck. Now let's take a look at the final project credential roster report. I'm hoping that some of you have already opened these links just to kind of get a walkthrough, get an idea of what to expect. As before, all of the fields on this form must be answered before the submission goes through. The form can only be submitted if everything is answered. Again, you'll select your school from the drop-down menu, enter your email, and address these questions. There are about 5 of them. Click over to the link on the left side. The worksheet will open another browser version of an Excel sheet. Please save the file on your computer before you begin to enter information. You will have to enter the name of your institution and answer yes or no to the consortium question. The font in red shows a sample of a credential program and applicable characteristics. You'll notice that some of the fields have a drop-down menu. If you have more than 20 credential programs to report, please insert more columns using this spreadsheet. Do not attach a separate document. Please be sure to include the 6-digit zip codes associated with each credential program. A list of zip codes can be found using the link provided. Now, as an example, if you're using welding as your credential program, you can search through this platform and you will have different definitions and zip codes provided for welding, as you can see here. Once you complete entering the information in the Excel file and answer the project report questions, your saved Excel sheet can be dragged and dropped using the box below. And once again, you'll receive a confirmation email upon submission. Should there be any unspent funds to be returned from your grant, the return of funds form needs to be completed, signed, and submitted. Returning funds is a two-step process: the submission of a return of funds form and the transmission of funds back to the coordinating board. We encourage you to find out who on your campus has access to transmit funds back to the coordinating board. And once again, you'll go over to the left, click on the link, but only this time you'll open a Word document. And once again, it's in a browser version of Microsoft. Embedded in the heading, you'll see instructions for the electronic funds transfer, or EFT. That is also available for you as a resource. Now, it's important that you download this Word document to your computer. The document will actually ask you to enable for editing before you actually start typing away. Once you complete the form, save the file as a PDF and enclose your electronic authorized signature. Then the PDF can be dragged and dropped into this box here by using the Attach Your Return Funds File here section. So once again, all of the fields must be answered in order for the Smart Sheet to go through. If you have any questions regarding the submission process, send me an email. My email is actually at the end of the slide deck. Now, Dr. Ranis will provide important information pertaining to your student level data.
Thank you, Manny. We're going to go to the question of student level data. So if you use True Grant funding for student financial aid purposes, if you provided student financial aid using True Grant Fund money, you must submit data about that through the THECB Move It portal. The Move It portal is our secure portal. It is not associated with this True Grant Hub that we're demonstrating to you right now. Student level data is privacy protected. It has a series of protocols and protections available. We have limited access here at the agency to the Move It portal, and at your institutions, there's an individual who's been designated as your Move It person. So if you've provided student financial aid through the True Grant program, please be sure to find out who your Move It designated person is on your campus. That person is the one who will be able to transmit information about privacy protected data about students to THEB. You must not use email. You must not use the True Grant Hub to transmit information about student level data. Our report forms and instructions on the Move It portal will be sent to you in the next few days. As I said, that's the one process that we could not assimilate and design into the True Grant Hub because of the privacy concerns. So be very keenly aware. Student level data handled separately, mandatory to report if you have used the funding for student financial aid. Instructions on this will be sent to you, and please pay attention to the way that process works. Next slide, please, Manny. So to reiterate some of the sort of biggest takeaways from what we've been trying to show to you today. First, again, student level information if you had financial aid purposes, of your grant funds is privacy protected and can't be submitted, must not be submitted through the True Grant Hub or through email. And you're going to have to transmit it through our Move It portal, and you'll be getting separate instructions for that. Please, please do not use any previous templates or forms for the purpose of 2022 closeout. Use the forms on the True Grant Hub for closeout. The links on each of the pages for the the expense report, the project report, the credential roster, and the return of funds form. Those are the forms you should be using, not ones that you've used in the past. Do remember, you cannot, unfortunately, start, stop, and resume editing documents when in the Grant Hub. So that's why Manny has emphasized that you should download these forms, save them, fill them out, and then upload them when they're complete. Because if you prepare your documents in another format, then you can enter them into the hub in a single seating. Stopping, and resuming is unfortunately not yet a functionality in the Smartsheet software that we are using for this platform. Next slide, please. When you're submitting these reports, and this is something that we've noticed from other closeout operations that we've done recently, be sure that the calculations for your unexpended funds, if you have some, are the same on your expense report and on the return of funds form. Make sure that those two numbers match. We want to make sure that we have a correct information, and you want to know, also be confirmed that you have the correct information about how much was not expended. And once again, be aware that once you submit an expense report, it is a two-step process for confirmation. You'll submit the report, and then you'll be sent an email notification that asks your certification or authorization official to confirm that the expense report is correct. And once you click the confirmation box on that email, the expense report submission is final. If you need instructions on how to transfer funds back to THECP, there is a link on the return of funds form that is on the portal, but you could also ask for further instructions or clarifications by putting a question to the true@highered.gov mailbox, which is the mailbox that Manny and I use for True. And do be sure to use true@highered.gov. It's actually highered.texas.gov. I'm so sorry, folks. We'll correct that in a minute. For all your questions and inquiries. Next slide, please. So here we are at questions, and we have one question in the box. How would we submit student information via Move It with a consortium? Will each consortium submit student data? That's a really good question. Thank you. We are suggesting that the primary grant holder, if you're in a consortium with partners, the primary grant holder is the body that would consolidate student information and submit it all at once. It's a lot easier. If it doesn't work for you, contact us and we'll see what we can work out. What we're concerned about is timely collection of data, timely and accurate, correct collection of data, and realizing that there are student identifiers involved. And you may not have an MOU with your partners about that confidential level of information, might suggest that you have to have your partners submit separately. So let's talk it through. If you have a question, you can pose that to us, and we can work it through. We'll also be consulting with the folks here who are in charge of security and all of these different kinds of questions. If a grant was extended through 9/30, does the 10/9 deadline still apply? Yes. That was one of the conditions of getting an extension, was that you would be prepared to submit your reports and return on expended funds by October 9th. So you are committed. We asked you to commit to doing that even if you got an extension. Good question. Do you only return what you didn't spend? Yeah, that's right. If you have any questions about that, we'd be happy to talk it through with you. It is, and there may be some elements or some finesse in that question that I'm not picking up on, but yes, you should only return what you didn't spend by August 31st. Does anyone have any other questions? if it occurs to you that you do, please do send them along to us. Manny, we'll just pause for a moment and we'll come back to questions. Could you go to the next slide? As Manny alluded, we are about to announce the True 2023 grant competition. We hope to release the request for applications, known as the RFA, in mid-September, with an informational webinar tentatively scheduled for September 20. The announcements are going to go out to institutions via Gov Delivery about that week. And as Manny noted, all the application materials, the application packet, will be accepted through the True Grant Hub. So we will be opening the True Grant Hub for the True 2023 grant competition at the time of RFA public release and public announcement of the competition. We're excited about it. We think it's going to be an easier way to submit your materials, and certainly one that'll be hopefully more accurate and easier to track rather than email attachments, which is what we've often used in the past here at THECB. Manny, next slide. Yeah, so here I've got the right True address, and my apologies once again. So I'm Sherry Rannis. I'm the director here at THECB. Manny is our grants coordinator, who's our True point person. And Amelia DeLanda is our project manager, who's a Smartsheet expert. So if you have technical difficulties with Smartsheet, Amelia is the right person to contact. Manny can also help, of course, but Amelia is our kind of go-to for the higher level technical issues if there are some. Do use the True mailbox, true@highered.texas.gov. That's the proper email. And the next question in the Q&A is, will you get a copy of the slide deck? And the answer is indeed yes.
Yes.
For those of you who were in the beginning of this opening of this webinar, we'll be sending the deck to each of the points of contact, so each of the 29 True grantees. And then we're hoping to post a recording of this webinar on the True 2022 webpage on the THECB website. So if you need additional copies, feel free to disseminate the deck to whoever and whomever you're going to be collaborating with as you go through Closeout. We're keenly aware that Closeout presses on and requires collaboration among different departments and divisions within an institution. And if there's anything we can do to help with that, we're certainly available to provide some clarification or any answers to any questions that you all might have. No questions too small. Please never hesitate to contact about this. True 2022 was funded by the state of Texas using ARPA funding. ARPA is federal funding. A lot of the reasons why we have to do this closeout the way we're doing it is because of federal requirements for documentation of grants. So all of us are aware that federal standards and the federal requirements are pretty complicated sometimes. If you have any questions about that, please also don't hesitate to ask us. Manny and I are pretty well versed in this, but we have a really crack legal team here at THECB that's grant specialists, and they also can help. And we can research questions if you have them. So about 5 weeks to go before these documents are due. We're so grateful for you attending this webinar. It happened pretty fast. Again, any additional questions that may occur to you, don't hesitate to put them into the true@highered.texas.gov mailbox, and we'll be responding as rapidly as we can. We pride ourselves on answering quickly. One more cue. Will next grant be longer than a year? Great question. It'll be about a year. True 2023 will be about a year. We have funding across the biennium, and we're working out the details and finalizing the scope, duration, and of the grant, 2023 grant right now, to be able to announce it in a couple of weeks. But I believe it's going to be a 12-month grant once again. Cool. And more soon about that. You'll be getting notifications. The field will be getting notifications about True 2023 very, very soon. Well, so with that, on Manny and Dr. Jackson's behalf, and with thanks to Marie Valdez for the technical side of all of this, thank you for attending our informational webinar. Looking forward to answering your questions and looking forward to learning about the accomplishments associated with the projects that you ran through True 2022. We're grateful for your involvement. We're grateful for your engagement. Thanks very much again. Bye.